Hello, VEX Robotics universe, and welcome to another fantastic episode of UnVEXed. I'm your host, Andrew Dolan, and tonight we're going to be talking about some really interesting stuff. This is a deeper dive into the greatest 2 minutes in robotics. Our folks on tonight are going to be talking about their passion and their roles that they play throughout the VEX Robotics competitions. We all just got back, I should say a number of us just got back from the Event Partner Summit. This was hosted at Kettering University over in Michigan, and it was a fantastic opportunity for a bunch of event partners to get together. Now, some people call, well, you went to a conference. Like, wait a minute, no. The name is the Event Partner Summit. And summits, if you look them up, are interesting because it's a collection of very important people. So I consider to be the least important person that was at that event. But it was so cool to be in the space with all of those other fantastic event partners. And just a shout out to our friends at the Robotics Education and Competition Foundation. They put on a fantastic event partner summit this year. Lots of hot button topics. And in this episode, we're going to go through and talk about a number of those things that we discussed. And it's given us some inspiration for future events. And there sounds like there might be some changes. So let's bring in the rest of the folks and start chatting about this year's Event Partner Summit. Look at all those important people. John, he's not important because he wasn't there. We'll give him a pass. Do you have an excuse or any reason why you couldn't attend? I mean, it's in your backyard.
It's in my backyard, but summer is softball time. Softball is life. My daughter plays softball. I'm a coach. So I had prior commitments.
Should we give him a pass?
Yeah, she got the championship ring.
Really?
Yeah.
Awesome.
2 weekends back to back.
All right, you're a proud papa then.
Yep.
All right, so we're going to be talking about the Event Partner Summit. And John, we love your contributions and your opinions about things. So let's get into some details. We're going to take a pick here. Do you want to go with Paula? Do you want to start us off? What was something that really stood out at this year's EP Summit?
You know, one of the things that was focused on was code of conduct and kind of some upticks or some new things that they want to make sure the G1 and G2 enforcements at events are kind of elevated to make sure that it maintains a student-centered program, which I think is something that we've kind of discussed on this panel before is super, super important as we develop those skills that are so highly sought after in today's market. And so I think that was something that really kind of stuck out to me. I think it was neat. They've got kind of a new channel for EPs. I don't know if it's officially released or if it'll be coming, but it'll be a new way that that can be monitored, which I thought was kind of cool.
All right, so let's chat about that a little bit. Because, sitting there listening to them talk about this, so many of the things that we heard them discussing were related to what I would call growing pains. How long ago was it that there was only maybe, 5,000 teams that were competing in these competitions throughout the world? And now the numbers that they shared with us are knocking on the door of 40,000. And when you get to a critical mass like that, everything, the intensity of the competition just raises. And then we see some bad behaviors start to enter in. And we've had bad behaviors in this throughout, but I think it's just that you're going to have greater numbers. So maybe bad behaviors isn't the right word. Creative thinkers.
Well, and don't you think some of it also comes like just not really realizing. If you're newer to VEX and you're a new mentor, new coach, you don't understand necessarily that it is so student driven. And so I think just this whole new process, I think, will help um, inform and help kind of curtail that early on so that it doesn't continue to develop and get out of control, coach bots or, whatever, that it really is focused on the students. And
So what they were tossing around some very specific ideas about being able to give event partners a reporting process for code of conduct violations, right? And then there was a lot of discussion about what do you do with that information, and should it, follow the team, or should it just be specific to one event? But I like it. The whole premise, it seemed, was to try to catch those behaviors early, correct them, and such that they are going to be at a qualifying event versus, and then it gets fixed, instead of creeping their way into state championships and then creeping their way into world championships, and then it becomes a bigger deal because teams are going to be like, the coach was programming the robot. I saw him, and maybe it happened. But what did you guys, Christy and Clint, what did you guys pick up on as far as that reporting structure?
I remember sitting there in the at the summit, and it was such a hot button topic that people were all over the board on what they wanted. It was almost like they wanted, when do I use this reporting thing? They wanted a black and white. When do I use this? When do I report? When does this go to the RECF? When do we just say bang? And I'm sitting there thinking, a lot of it, it's a degree or a case by case almost. I've watched John at the edge of the field handle COCs in a John way that he just says, hey, you guys are pushing this, and you never hear it. Yeah.
COC?
Code of conduct.
Code of conduct.
Oh, you guys have acronyms for stuff?
Yes, we do. But,
and
I don't think for every one of those that there is a end all be all, I think by the time you get to the point where you have to report it, I think you'll know that it's time.
right.
I think the other thing that we have to remember when we talk about code of conduct and G1, G2 is that we are, because this is a student-centered organization or process, we are dealing with students who are learning. And so whether it's a behavior issue where they're not rightfully advocating for themselves, or it's an issue with maybe a coach or a mentor or somebody overstepping their bounds as far as work on the robot or the program or something like that. I think we need to always remember to start with talking to those people and helping them learn what's okay and what's not okay as far as what that process is. And I think that's a respect thing, give them the benefit of the doubt, talk to them first. If it becomes or continues to be an issue, that's when I think this reporting structure comes into play. And really, it's just, I think, a documentation process. When a team goes from one competition to another competition, I don't think that ever is intended to be held against that team. Another event partner is not going to be privy to that information. That's just going to stay with REC, but just as a tracking way to document that what is happening with that particular team. That way, if it does become a recurring factor, then the REC Foundation can handle it, not necessarily an individual event partner at a local event.
Don't
Makes
you think
sense.
this whole
Hey.
process can curtail early on? I mean, it'll prevent it from getting out of control. And I think,
I think that's the hope. That's the hope, that it will prevent it from getting out of control. When
I'm going to pick
you
on
as a
John for a second.
what's
You
that?
finish your thought. Finish your thought, and I'm going to kick it to John for a second with a question.
when we go to competitions, especially teams that do compete regularly and repeatedly within their region, a lot of times you see the same teams, and that's one thing that you don't want to see happen is the same problems with the same teams over and over and over again, event after event after event. Hopefully they can be talked to and remediate the situation so that it changes for next time.
All right. So if you guys are watching this, click on the comments in the chat here. Let us know about your code of conduct or other things throughout the episode about what your thoughts are, and we can bring them up live. Hey, John, practice with me, okay? I am a competitor, and I think it's perfectly okay for my dad, who's an awesome engineer, to design pieces of the robot, and my mom is a programmer, and she can program like missions to Mars. She's amazing. Okay, now I want you to practice your code of conduct and yell at me.
Okay. Well, first off, not going to yell. A lot of times at the field, I see things happening. We see you off in a corner. A lot of times it happens in a corner. Students are not afraid to come up to me and go, hey, there's a coach, there's a dad, there's someone over there. So we'll make it a process. Someone go by, see what's going on, take a picture. Are they on the computer? Sometimes if you just go up and ask them, it's new mentors, and sometimes they just act like or just don't know any better. Well, I'm just pulling up the program for them. There is a line in there. We should stay further away from that line than skirting on the line. But basically, it's a discussion you need to have with the adult. You just have it. But a lot of times I will have that discussion with the students and kind of explain the process, because the ones that are going to get hurt are the students. Students are the one in the very end that when this all falls to pieces, they'll either get pulled from an award, because that is a thing. We can go in there if there's a G1 or a G2 or a COC. We can go straight up to the EP and the JA, and we can discuss it, and you were not viable for any judged award. And it happens. I've seen it happen. But the thing is, that mentor, that coach, that mom or dad or whoever who gets a little bit more handsy or a little bit more involved than they should be ends up hurting the students. The bad piece to me is the students really don't know. So that's why I like to speak to the student, because I'm not supposed to speak to parents or mentors or whatever. My role as a head ref is I deal with the student. But I will explain to them this process, and I explain what we just talked about, that in the end, it's going to hurt you. And I know, maybe they mean the best, but hey, try not to have them do that. Or, it's much better. If you have a question, hey, go read G1. Hey, go read G2. I'll tell you all the time, read the manual, read the manual, read the manual. If you read the manual, it's in there. You'll know it. But, that's we see it. Everyone's seen it. It happens. We see it at Worlds. We all know it happens. There's videos. It's out there. This looks like a great direction to go to probably rein it in. Yes, when we get bigger, we get more competitive. When we get more competitive, then there's everybody trying to win. You got to be number one. Second place is the first loser. But the ones that hurt the most is you're hurting programs, and sometimes it's young programs, and programs can fail over it because if someone gets in trouble, no one else steps up to mentor. So if you just deal with them directly, nip it in the bud, it's probably the easiest solution on my end to solve the problem.
Yep. I like that very much. And they talked about some egregious violations out there. And I think we saw some of this at VEX Worlds, where you would actually have teams that were not able to partake in alliance selection or elimination rounds because something was happening and it was that egregious that the decisions were made. So they're putting some pretty serious tools in place, consequences, no judged awards, and then potentially removing you from a elimination rounds. Wow. And that's how serious this is. It's a student-centered competition. Any other thoughts before we move on to the next topic?
I think it's a step in the right direction.
Yep, I agree.
Right on.
It's a step in the right direction. I think it's a great tool to teach students that we're serious about this, but also remind them that every competition is a new day. It's not going to be held against them the next time they compete, but it's an opportunity to learn what's right and what's wrong, and be able to move forward in a positive way.
Right on. And if you guys need any tips on how to subtly remind your audience about code of conduct, I strongly encourage carrying the code of conduct banner around at events and showing the audience, maybe parking it right in front of the violators and saying, read this line right here, check this out. It's very subtle, but it gets their attention. But back to John's comment, and no yelling. Have the conversations. That's a great place to start, because maybe you don't know what you don't know, and there's a lot of new players involved in the competition. So start with that. Just say, hey, did you guys know that this is student-centered and that adults aren't allowed to do this or that, or you shouldn't be, whatever the violation is. That's a great place to start. Okay, Paula got to pick that first topic. Now we're going to click over to the Matt Lax and see what they've got to say. What do you want to chat about from the EP Summit?
What do you want to chat about? What was the other thing that they talked about? Judging?
Judging. Lots of really great resources that are available in the REC library. I think it's important as a coach, as a mentor, to know where to find those resources so that students and teams are not going into competitions not knowing what they're going to be judged on. So the rubrics are out there. The judge's guide is out there. They made some really good changes to it this year. Just kind of tweak and continue to develop that. But teams need to know that those resources are there so that they can prepare and be able to go to a competition, be able to go into an interview, and know what to expect.
Wait a minute, I thought the whole judging process was secret. Like, what do you mean? There's the team can just see what's happening?
I would say the number one thing that we could tell everybody here is the rubrics are out there. They're not hidden. Get your hands on them. Share them with your teams. Go over them. Download them. What they're going to ask you is a rubric.
I don't know if the updates are all completely live yet, but there are some changes to the rubric that are coming that I think are going to be really well received by the community.
Yeah, so if you, and that's another, sorry, just real quick, and then I'll kick it back to you, Paula. What I call legacy brain exists. If you've done this for so many years, you think, well, I know what the Excellence Award's about. Or I know that from this game, if you were touching a game object, it didn't count at the end of the match. So it must be that way for this competition as well. Throw it all out, reread that stuff, and you'll find your legacy brain, just ignore it. Assume that everything has changed. And when you find out that things are the same, okay, that's fine. But just assume that there's going to be changes to not only like the judging criteria, but also the rules of the competition.
I think it's important when you see new teams, new coaches, mentors too, making sure that they know where the new resources. I remember as a new coach, I was clueless. I didn't know where to find all of that. So I probably am still clueless. I don't know. Right? Yeah. But I think it's really important to show them where that is, because it really is the team's responsibility to find and delve into that. And I think that the strong teams, that's what they're good at. They analyze that stuff on a regular basis. And so once you've got that foundation, you talk about legacy brain, it doesn't take a lot to update and find out. Stop. And to make small modifications. I'm done.
Oh, that's good stuff. There was another bombshell drop that happened at the EP Summit. All right. Anybody guess what I'm talking about? Has something to do with money.
Oh,
more money.
More money is better, but not maybe in this case. So what we're talking about specifically here is the price of VEX Robotics Worlds is going to increase to $1,800 per team. So what does that do? And where was it at? Wasn't it like 1,200 last year? So
Yes.
what does that do to your teams?
Well, I know last year we had to cut back on the amount of middle school teams going to Worlds, just and kind of admins. They've always been great supporters, but they said um, kind of agreed only the very top award spots at our state region will get to go to Worlds. And so I can see that happening maybe for our middle school as well. It might cut down. Maybe, I mean, we're a small school district. We have a small pool to draw from for finances and stuff. And like I said, our school and admin is super supportive, but ultimately it's expensive to travel. And so I guess I'd like to see Worlds get a little bit smaller, more condensed, and mean a little bit more as far as those spots given out. And maybe that would help fix the costs too. Maybe not. That's just my thought. But
Well, in terms of a percentage of the teams advancing to Worlds, as the number of teams grows, the
right.
percentage of teams is going to shrink that are actually going to be able to make it. So that's something to think about, that it's already going to get smaller. In a region that may have had 15 invites to Worlds because they got a whole bunch of population of robotic teams, now in the future, you hit 100,000 teams in this competition, and now it's maybe down to 5 that are going to be able to advance to Worlds. So that might actually help offset, in thinking about it, it's a greater deal, right, to get there. So
Right.
something to think on. Yep. And if you have 10 teams going to Worlds, I bet, and that was in the comments there, I don't think you're going to have 10 teams going to Worlds year after year after year after year. It's not in the cards. Again, smaller percentage of teams are going to get to go.
I've heard some people say that, oh, but if then, you know, you don't get the less experienced teams seeing that. But I just remember sitting there and just being mad when teams weren't able to, and just, we worked harder. Said, okay, kids, you didn't like the fact that you didn't qualify for Worlds. What are you going to do about it? How are you going to work harder and smarter so that you can get there? And so I hope it's that mentality instead of giving up.
So there's a comment comes across there. Doesn't it make survival of the richest? Yeah, that definitely is an impact to this. However, I've been really, really amazed by the charity that we've seen by some organizations. I've seen tiny, tiny little towns go to their business partners and industry partners and say, "Hey, we won this thing, and it's going to cost us, X dollars to get there." And I've seen them just writing a check. So I always look for those connections. I think that's important. The other piece of this that I think we need to talk about is this competition all about getting to the world championships? Is that the objective for our teams? Is that the thing that we should be putting as the most important to all of this? What do you think, John?
Well, I believe if we talk about it and the way signature events were designed, they were designed for teams that may not get to go to get a World's experience. So, and that's a much cheaper option. Although, is it? Because today I was perusing some prices, and there's some signature events out there that I believe are priced out of the atmosphere. $500 for a signature event is a lot of money to me. It just seems astronomical. What is there a value there? Is there something? I mean, if there's something else to do, like, a water park, I don't know. Be a good idea to have one at a water park. But stuff like that, if there's a value or whatever, I know it's a good piece. But with $1,800 price, and we have, it seems like this year the signature events flooded. There's a ton more out there. And that's a beautiful thing because it's going to get more teams exposed to it. And they go to a signature event and it's set up like Worlds, and they're going to see some higher robots or just some talent that is going to push them. That'll make them better.
Mm-hmm.
But in the end result is when you pull out of your states, when you go to states and you win your states, and then your district can't afford to send you, man, then we're talking about something a little bit different to me. I mean, the kids earned it, they whatever. I'll challenge you and I'll challenge any admin. If that was the price for their football team to go play a game, they would pay it tenfold every single time. These students matter just as much as the athletes. These students are athletes. These students compete at
Yeah.
other things. It's just, but
So,
when
John,
we see it,
I like your perspective, but I'm going to put that question out there again, and maybe somebody else has a different answer to this. Is the objective and ultimate goal of this program to get world invites and to be at competing at the highest levels? Is that the objective?
no.
Well, what am I missing?
It's icing on the cake. Being able to go to Worlds is icing on the cake. You know, as a teacher, Paula will probably agree with me on this. You know, our objective in doing robotics is what our students are gaining from this and what they're taking post-secondary and into the workforce. That's what we're doing. Competitions are fun. Local competitions are fun. State competitions are fun. Signature events are fun. Worlds is fun too. But the ultimate goal is what they're learning and what skills they're gaining from it.
Thank you. Yes, that's the answer I was looking for. John just was like, signature events and champions, and it's all good. Oh, no, honestly, if you had a team that competed and they fell flat on their face and lost every single match, it was their first year out of the gate, what are their victories, Paula?
They're still learning. They're there. They still learned something. And when in this world has there not been failure? I feel like the more you fail, the more opportunity you're going to have to grow and get better. And honestly, that's such an important life lesson in today's world, in this immediacy of everything. And I want, and I get it right away. I just think that it's so important for our kids to have that. It's okay for them to be sad and cry because they didn't get to go. That's life. I think if we sugarcoat everything for them, then we see what that does. It's not a good thing. And so I didn't like losing. I don't like to lose, but it's a part of life. And I think it's a good thing for kids to go through and coaches to see.
All right. No, that's perfect. Thank you for that. And FAIL is an acronym. It stands for First Attempt in Learning. Throwing that out there for the community. All right. Now we're starting to run short on time, and John had a hot topic that he wanted to bring up.
Yes, I really, really do. I just want to give some kudos and a shout out. 4082B Freedom Gladiators, their YouTube channel. They had a 3-day robot in 3 days challenge. They had students from all over. I think Iron Eagle students are there, ex and present. Ben was there. 515 was Revision was there. Joey from 4082B was there. I'm going to miss somebody I know. Cooper from over in Florida was there. There were some VEX U kids, some high school kids, and they split up on different teams, and they tried to tackle this game in just their concept. And they built a robot in 3 days. And each robot, they had 4 robots. They were all different. The content is out there. If you go and look, and then they did little mini documentaries. And I think Sam at 9634 did the editing, was great editing. But the documentaries were great. I mean, they did just mini documentaries. They showed you the 3-day process. They showed you some scrimmages. But then they had the teams talk about their robot. And they basically told you, I did this, probably wouldn't do this again. I did that. This didn't work. That didn't work. This, for early season, that's awesome. That is what this community is about. Giving back, helping, showing things, not keeping everything secret. You know, this game is going to be a little bit unique. We're going to see a lot of different things. We're going to see little tiny robots. We're going to see larger robots. We're going to see, is Meta out yet? I don't know. Have we seen Meta? Is Puncher going to be king? Of course Puncher's going to be king because I'm Team Puncher Gang. Don't ask Clint because he's catapult, but it's okay. But yes, I just a huge shout out when you see stuff like that and you guys share it. These other people are eating it up. That is great. I just want to say kudos, good job. That was awesome.
So, hey, John, what do you got a bleep bloop down there on the keyboard to get to that? If I went
It's
Freedom
YouTube,
Gladiators,
4082B Freedom Gladiators on YouTube.
all right.
But first,
hey,
you
thanks for
should
that.
like and subscribe. First, like and subscribe to UnVEXed. And then in the search bar, you can go look for the other stuff. Yes, Clint's wearing this shirt. And
Yes.
mall's coming up. Mall's coming up. We're going to be at
Yeah.
mall. And
Yes,
we're gonna
be at
get
mall.
excited.
We're going to see a lot of really interesting gameplay at one of the first events of the entire season of size. It's going to be super exciting. And along with that, this is a good segue into wrapping things up because UnVEXed is going to be doing a couple of things at the Mall of America. Specifically, we're having a VEX IQ workshop and we're having a VRC workshop. And a lot of those little segments from those workshops are going to be pushed out into the UnVEXed YouTube channel. So check it out. See what new coaches for IQ and for VRC, check it out. You'll be able to learn a lot along the way. And future episodes, we've had some good discussions here about what we can bring to the community that's going to be helpful. And just keep watching. There's going to be a lot of great things happening at the World UnVEXed right here. Like and subscribe. You got ideas or you want to be on the show? We might entertain those. So send us a note. theworldunvexed@gmail.com. All right, and I think that's going to wrap up this episode. I'm going to do a quick go round and let's sign them out, guys. John, what do you got? Your parting thoughts?
My parting thoughts are: let's go. We're getting into competition season. Let's go, guys! I can't wait. I'm excited.
Excited too.
Matt,
See you at Mall of America. Started out strong.
Yep. Good luck, everybody. I'm getting started on a new season. We're looking forward to it.
Yep. And if you have the opportunity and you didn't get into mall, but you're close, swing by and check it out because I guarantee you're going to see some stuff that you can take back to your teams. Bring your students to have them check it out.
Watch it on the live stream.
Watch that live stream.
All right. VEX Robotics Universe, thank you so much. This is another episode of UnVEXed, a show about the greatest 2 minutes in robotics. And these are the greatest folks that I've had the pleasure of working with. So thank you all. We'll see you on the next episode.